Hey guys, what's up? It's Charlie here, and today we're going to be looking at 10 bodybuilders who took it too far. So, bodybuilding is a skill that many people like to do. And don't get me wrong, it can take a lot of willpower and work. But sometimes people go overboard. Sometimes people want to get the biggest muscles and fastest way possible. And this can lead to things like people's muscles exploding and people pumping gasoline into their arms. But before we get into it, why not subscribe and press the notification bell too. Coming in at number 10, we have Greg Valentino. So, Greg Valentino is one of the most infamous bodybuilders in the world. He got super famous after he was in the documentary The Man Whose Arms Exploded. Much like the title of the documentary suggests, that's exactly what happened to Greg's arms. As many bodybuilders do, Greg was using steroids. But he also used synthol too to make his arms ginormous. Eventually his arms ballooned to massive sizes. At one point he had 27-inch arms. Considering his waist was also 27 inches, this means his waist was as big as his arms. And he was only 5'5", making him look kind of ridiculous. He was a short and quite skinny guy with absolutely massive arms. According to Greg himself, he wanted to look crazy. He had what is known as the small man complex. Because he's small, he wanted to look freakishly scary. And he's also been dubbed the most hated bodybuilder in the world. This is because he made bodybuilding look like an embarrassment. Eventually, after his arms got too big, they popped. That's right, this guy's arms literally did explode. Next up, we have Aziz. So, if you were in the YouTube fitness community a few years back, you may remember Aziz Shafashin. He was better known as his channel name Aziz, and he's a Russian-Australian bodybuilder. He had tons of subscribers who worshipped his every video. He said all of his gains were all natural, and his subscribers believed him. He often gave tips and showed vlogs of him working out and putting in work in the gym. But in 2011 in Thailand, everything changed. Aziz went on vacation there to Thailand, and in a sauna he had a heart attack. He was taken to a Thai hospital, but doctors could not revive Aziz. Sadly, on that day, Aziz passed away. But the thing that stunned many people was because this is likely related to substance abuse. That's right, it seems Aziz was actually using steroids the entire time. Despite the fact that he said his gains were all natural, many people now believe this was not the case. His passing was announced on Facebook and stunned all of his followers. And even today, you still see tributes to Aziz in the YouTube fitness community. Next up is Andreas Monza. So now we're looking at an Austrian bodybuilder. And no, I'm not talking about Arnie. Instead, this guy's called Andreas, and he was famous for one very specific thing. That is for having almost no fat in his body. Despite him weighing 240 pounds, this guy had 0% fat. He didn't just have an obsession with muscles, he had an obsession with leanness. But that obsession would eventually prove to be very dangerous. When Andreas got to the age of 31, he passed away. This was due to a liver and kidney failure. At first, people weren't exactly sure why this was. But after an autopsy, doctors revealed that Monza had almost 0% fat on his body. This caused his heart to enlarge to twice the size of a normal heart. Not only that, his lack of fat caused ping-pong-sized tumors to develop in his liver. It's funny, most people think that when it comes to health, the less fat the better. But Andreas proves that sometimes you do need a bit of fat to survive. The autopsy also showed that he had around 20 drugs in his system at the time. These were mostly performance-enhancing drugs to help him with his bodybuilding career. Many famous bodybuilders said they were very sad about his passing. They said he was simply too deprived from any fats or calories during the season. And they said he must have had a very painful life before he passed away. Next up is Nicole Bass. So, most of the people on this list are men. But here's one woman who took bodybuilding to the extreme. Many wrestling fans may remember Nicole as she was in ECW and WWF. But before she was a wrestler, she was actually a pro bodybuilder, as you can tell by her massive physique. In the 80s and 90s, she took home the top prizes at 2 NPC events. She was absolutely massive, in fact being larger than some of her male counterparts. She was 6'2" in height and weighed 240 pounds. But to compete with her male counterparts, she also had to use a lot of steroids. This left her looking very masculine despite being a woman, and she had massive arms and an incredibly male physique her entire adult life. However, in 2006, Bass had to go to hospital as she had pancreatitis. This was brought on by steroids that she used when she was bodybuilding. Then, 11 years later in early 2017, she had to go to hospital again. She was only 52 when she suffered a major stroke. Doctors said that she was mentally incapacitated, so she was taken off life support and passed away. Doctors said her passing was caused by a stroke, but doctors also said this was likely brought on by years of steroid use. Sometimes when you're sacrificing anything to keep up with your counterparts in competition, things can go massively wrong. Next up is Mohamed Benazzeza. This Algerian bodybuilder is famous for winning many events. He was most famous for beating Mr. Olympia in 1990. This earned him the nickname Killer of Giants. He also won various Grand Prix events in the 80s and 90s. Mohamed was also very famous for calling American bodybuilders sissies. This is because they were afraid of the potential risks of steroids. But maybe if Mohamed was more of a sissy, he wouldn't have passed away at the age of 33. That's right, after competing in the 1992 Mr. Olympia, he chose not to rest. Instead, Mohamed went right back into competition, but him not resting proved to be fatal. In order to prepare for his next competition, he injected himself with diuretic. This is a very powerful steroid which eventually caused him to get very dehydrated. His dehydration after the competition led to a heart attack which caused him to pass at the age of 33. Next up is Ron Norman. So, most bodybuilders are pretty young, but Ron Norman proves that age is just a number when it comes to bodybuilding. Ron Norman has taken bodybuilding to the extreme. That is because he's had 5 of his muscles explode. Usually for most people, 1 is enough. But despite his 5 muscle explosions, Ron keeps going and still bodybuilds today. Every time a muscle explodes, he gets fixed up by his orthopedic surgeon. His surgeon is able to reattach his tendons using anchors. These anchors are drilled into his bones and then it reattaches the tendons. It sounds like a very painful and nasty procedure to have, but this does allow Ron to keep going as if he's never had any muscles explode. Next up is Marcus Rule. Marcus Rule is known as one of the largest bodybuilders on Earth. He actually does hold the record for the biggest shoulders in bodybuilding, and he's also regarded as one of the strongest bodybuilders. Before his first competition, he trained for 5 years relentlessly in the gym every day, and after that he won many competitions and became quite the icon in the bodybuilding world. However, in 1999 he was disqualified from Mr. Olympia. This is because he took the same drug that took the life of Mohamed Benazzeza. This was a pill that would stop the production of water in your body. This massively dehydrates anyone who takes it. But Marcus believed that if he dried out his body, his muscles would pop out even more. But instead of the pill causing Marcus to win, it caused him to become disqualified. Next up is Greg Kovacs. This Canadian bodybuilder is one of the biggest bodybuilders ever. He actually weighed around 420 pounds, and he's also seen as the strongest pro bodybuilder of all time. He was able to bench press 700 pounds for 2 reps, and his leg press was even more amazing at 2,000 pounds. Many said that Greg was almost not human, but sadly at the age of 44, his non-human physique caused him to pass away. He had undergone heart surgery, and this had left him with water retention issues. Soon after that, he actually had a heart failure which caused him to pass away at the age of 44. Next up is Nasser El Sonbati. If you were just to look at Nasser's head, you may think he's kind of a nerd, but look down at his body and you'll see he's one of the largest bodybuilders of all time. He was nicknamed the Professor because of his massive, thick glasses. He also had university degrees in history, political science, and sociology. In the 90s, he was one of the most popular bodybuilders on Earth. He weighed around 330 pounds, but doctors always warned him as this was over double the amount he should have been for a man of his height. He won the 1999 Arnold Classic, but in 2013, when he was only 47 years old, he passed away in his sleep. He was in a trip to Cairo, Egypt, when he passed away from breathing problems. But even today, Nasser has gone down as a legend in the bodybuilding world. Next up is Dean Warmby. Dean used to look like this, which is very surprising considering he now looks like this. That's right, Dean was left as the shell of a man he once was after being diagnosed with liver cancer. This was brought on by his extreme 10,000 calorie per day diet. Every single day he would eat bacon, pizzas, burgers, sandwiches, and 8 energy drinks. He said he wanted to have the perfect bodybuilder physique, but this led to him having a terrible health situation, and now he's incredibly skinny and anemic. Dean just proves that with some bodybuilders, it's all or nothing. Check out the poll in the top right corner to vote for the most crazy bodybuilder physique on this list. If you guys want more amazing videos, check out my second channel. There'll be a link to that on screen in a moment. But as always, thanks for watching. Check out some more videos on screen right now. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to Top 10s.